In this issue of ICC In Focus, we talk to Fergal Gaynor, the common legal representative of victims in the trial of Uhuru Kenyatta at the International Criminal Court. The common legal representative is a lawyer who represents all of the victims entitled to participate in the court proceedings.
My job is to represent the interests of the victims in the trial of Uhuru Kenyatta. So like every lawyer, I have to go and speak to my clients, see what they think about what's going on in the trial, and then to tell the judges what the victims think of the very issues that have arisen.
What are the issues that are important for victims?
One of the most important things for the victims and for me is to make sure that the judges get the truth as to what happened during the post-election violence. If we see anything which is misleading, disingenuous, evasive, or a downright lie, I think it's very important that that should be made clear in the courtroom that that's not what happened.
Who are the victims that you represent?
Obviously, I have to go and physically meet my clients, and there are thousands of victims of this case. They live in lots of different towns and villages all across the Nyanza region, some in the western region, some in the Rift Valley region. All of the victims that I represent used to live in Nakuru and Naivasha. I do not represent victims who were living in other towns during the post-election violence, because the crimes committed in those other towns aren't part of the charges against Mr. Kenyatta. Now, after they were expelled from their homes to live in areas in the Nyanza region and the western region predominantly, they didn't receive much help from the government. In many cases, they got no help at all. In some cases, they got 1 5-kilogram tin of maize meal. That's all they got for 5 years. Now, during the post-election violence, a lot of women were raped. A lot of men were beaten. A lot of people were hit with pangas. Men had their penises cut off. As a result of all this, they have medical needs which have extended to the present day. A lot of people had to look at traumatic scenes of people being killed, of human heads being put on sticks. As a result of those experiences, they have post-traumatic stress disorder. They haven't received the kind of medical treatment that they need. So a lot of today's problems are directly linked to the crimes which took place during that period in January 2008.
When a machete lands on a human head, it can take many blows to kill. That became clear to victim 9309 one morning in Naivasha in January 2008. He had tried to escape his house, but Mungiki found him, hacked him repeatedly with a machete, and then left him for dead. When I first met him 5 years after the attack on him, his head bore deep, deep scars, and part of his skull appeared to be hanging on by a miracle. On the evening of the attack, as he lay helplessly in hospital, he telephoned his wife, who told him that after he had left, she had been gang raped by Mungiki, then doused in paraffin and set alight. Both of them were lucky to escape alive.
Do all victims have the same views and concerns?
I always make it clear to the victims that each and every victim is entitled to his or her own opinion. This isn't essentially a democracy. We're not ruling by majority. So if one group of victims think one thing, another group of victims think something else, and 2 or 3 people might have a totally different opinion, it's my job to relay the opinion of all of those people to the judges.
What are the views and concerns of victims?
Now, Your Honours, 4 of the victims who were authorised to participate by the pre-trial chamber in this case have died. For those 4 victims, Your Honours, justice delayed truly has been justice denied. Now, many of the victims in this case are elderly or in ill health. They themselves quite honestly fear that they too will pass away before they see justice in their own lifetimes.
The victims are interested in justice, primarily. They want the people who are responsible for the horrific crimes committed against them to be held responsible, and they want the truth to be told. They want justice not just for themselves and not just for their families, but for their communities and for all of the victims of the post-election violence.